Bonjiva Cordia, Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 133. And as is customary, I begin with the prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon ar fud na crinne. Gamara Shiakon in our Jali agus in our Jirha. Gunairi len ar Kuj Garmaka. Gamwich Buikas Jeev, Jeha, Chivdaka is spirit Chivdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. For peace. As fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So you're all very, very welcome, and Happy New Year to all of you. May 2024 bring us joy, peace, and wonder. So let me see where you're all from. Misty County Down, actually, we had a blue sky today, and I took ice for the first time this year from my windscreen. Now, it was 2 degrees. Obviously, it was below freezing during the night, but it's been lovely, crisp, cold, but clear sunshine. New South Wales, you're up early. Soggy Slough, that is sodden Soggy Slough. Soggy, North Hampshire. Happy New Year. County Meath, Belgium, Leeds. Where else are people from? Let me go up here. Where are the people from? Gloucestershire, Los Angeles, wonderful. Hertfordshire, France, wonderful. Bunclody, lovely. Madrid, drizzly here. Maine, Oakland, California. I don't know what it's like over in California. Philadelphia, lovely. Blessings. Oh, I don't know. Timey. This is minus 28 degrees centigrade. Wow, that's in Finland. That is cold. New sunny in California, lovely, 14 degrees. Now, we don't know if that's Fahrenheit or centigrade, but wonderful. John King in Scotland, lovely to see you all. So this evening we go to the UK let me introduce you to my guest, Alby. Alby Bruce.
Hi there.
So, Alby, you're so welcome. We had some technical difficulties here, and it's just great that we have managed to sort all of them amazingly. Alby, where are you? And just tell everybody where you're from and what your landscape is like.
It was a white knuckle ride actually getting into this StreamYard studio tonight. I live in a village called Chudley Knighton. Sounds a little bit like an old military colonel. But I'm 2 miles away from Dartmoor, which is absolutely brilliant. And I feel very lucky and very privileged to live in this neck of the woods, because it's a very inspiring place to be.
Brilliant. Now, of course, Bo, your wife was on some months ago, and I don't know and she talked about her landscape, but I'd love to hear you talk about your landscape and what it means to you being so close to Dartmoor.
Well, I was up there yesterday. I mean, I try and go up there as often as possible, really. My favourite wood is actually not quite on Dartmoor. It's a place called Barracleve Wood, and it's just amazing. It takes about 20 minutes to get in, and then suddenly you're greeted by a stone face. It's an outline of a rock, and it looks just like a face, and it's like the guardian of this whole wood. So very much that sort of granite that's strewn around as if by giants, just tons of it, and with trees almost growing out of it. And it's wild. It doesn't make sense. It's extremely beautiful. Bo and I decided to go to Dartmoor on a Christmas Day. And we thought, we've got to get out. We both had streaming colds and coughs, but we thought, this is going to be the best thing to do. So we'll go up to Rippentor we went to, and it was really, really wet. And it was the path was like a stream. We got to the very top, and we had a coffee laced with Baileys.
Good.
And it was really, really misty and a howling gale, but it felt really good to get there. It felt like we were doing something something really, really healthy. And then we promptly got lost for the next 3/4 of an hour because it was totally foggy. And eventually we found some cows, and we followed these cows, which were Aberdeen Angus's. The cows joined another herd, and we found a tractor driver who told us we were completely in the wrong direction. So it was quite an adventure and quite nutty, but that's the sort of thing that happens sometimes.
Oh, that's wonderful. From one herd of cows to another. Brilliant. All the wrong way. That's lovely. Absolutely wonderful. So there's a lot of people greeting you here, and there's Jim Ramsey and Heather Ramsey, and Chrissy Kimber can't stay, but she said lovely to see you. So
lovely people.
So how did you, just tell us a little bit about your background and how Druidry found you, or how you found the order.
Oh my goodness. A little bit about me. Well, it's like, how much do you want? I ended up going to a very posh school, which didn't really do me any favors whatsoever, because I actually came bottom of my year one time, which wasn't so great. And school made me feel quite anxious. But the thing I really liked doing was art. And I felt I was really quite good at art. So I was asked to leave my school for various reasons. I was quite rebellious, actually. I got into trouble quite a lot. And I ended up at the local college. So I did A-level art. I got O-level art. I did A-level art. After 2 years, and a pretty sort of, this is the early 70s, 70 to 72. So it wasn't exactly sort of straight edged life. It was quite adventurous, you might say, quite indulgent. But even so, I didn't pass my A-level art. It was history. It was art history as well as art, and I was told, it wasn't so bad. I only missed it by a few marks. I was really, really angry, and so I was done with the whole education system, with jobs and everything, and I took off to Wales, and lived quite roughly in Wales with a couple of friends, and we walked about 25 miles every day. A friend of mine had sold his flute for 50 quid. This is back in about 72, and we had 50 pence a day to live on, the three of us. Sometimes we slept in deserted houses. Sometimes we knocked up farmers to see if we could stay a night in their hayloft. They were generally okay. We had very long hair. So yeah, I kind of had lost my way really, as far as society, jobs, careers. And eventually I got into a meditation movement, funny enough, where I met Bo all those years ago. And that was really, really good. That gave me, actually, it made me feel a deep sense of peace. And I was actually happy to be alive, for really about the first time. But along with all around that time, everybody was into the same things. It was sort of every place you went to, there'd be a copy of the Lord of the Rings. There'd be people would have Pink Floyd albums or Hendrix or Cream, and this was, you could crash out somehow, hitch around Britain, and I'd ended up in Bath one time, and people had the same things around their flats, and it was just the great enlightened hippie movement, which wasn't so enlightened because you just scratched my album, man. It was quite, it was very liberating, but at the same time, I was reading Carlos Castaneda all about shamanism, and it's funny really, and Hermann Hesse, Narcissus and Goldmund, and I thought that was a absolutely wonderful book, and a few other books by Hesse, and it kind of set the scene, that sort of shamanic kind of view, really, and Lord of the Rings. It was kind of unworldly, really. So I was into meditation for quite a long time, and doing bits and pieces. My life was quite busy. I mean, I remember once I trained as a clockmaker and watch repairer on a government course, but that involved me moving to Slough, and I couldn't handle it, so I didn't do that. And sometimes I was a silkscreen printer. I was a painter and decorator. I thought I'd be an actor. Had some success with that, but but I hadn't really trained properly at that. Yeah, it's quite an odd life. What you imagine you're going to do at 19 and what you end up doing. I ended up going to the field of therapy, really, because I really like drama. So I trained as a drama therapist.
Okay.
And then I trained as a counsellor. Then I trained as a supervisor. Then a couples counsellor. So I kind of went down that route. But I worked as a drama therapist in a therapeutic community, as you know, working with people with personality disorder. I loved that job. I felt it was really, really me. I felt, I was of service, real service there. But Bo wanted to move to Exeter, so we ended up living in Exmouth, and I couldn't find the job I wanted, so I went to mental health, which was really, really tough. And I remember just feeling I had to work with 4 or 5 clients a day and drive and then input all this stuff on a computer, and I got more and more, I got really uptight. I was Mr. Uptight at work. I was quite angry, and it was Bo that found Obod. Although I'd given her this book called 21 Lessons of Merlin, which I think sometime before that. So I think even that had a little influence on that. But yeah, I looked at that before the Bardic course. There's just a little. It's like a trailer, isn't it? And there's this lovely poem who is it? Maybe it's 11th or 12th century nun, maybe in Ireland, and it was incredibly beautiful, and it was so moving, and I felt, this really resounded in my heart, and I loved it, and I thought, I really want to do this. I really want to be a bard, and I remember this sort of the self-initiation thing. We went up, found this moor called Mutter's Moor, and we went on this pilgrimage. It was like a pilgrimage up this stony path to the top, and then we found a place for the initiation, and it was like a crossroads, and I did the initiation, and I cried with happiness that day. It really was like coming home. I absolutely loved it. And then I felt, it was like, my life was coming back again. I suddenly felt happy again. That had eluded me, but everything, it was like, I've got this big link, and I've had it all my life really, but I hadn't seen it. It was through OBOD. It was suddenly the practice. It was like, I feel linked up with the trees, and and the sky, and the grasses, and the plants, I think I've always been a bit neurotic. I worry about dialogue, what people say, and suddenly with Druidry, it was like it's sort of like, forget that. It's about, you don't it's about, you can be in solitude, in a wood, and just enjoy blackbirds and robins and rocks, and
I can so with that, and I think many people will identify with that. And so often people say they join OBOD, and I have said the same, and then they came home. And I never expected that when I joined the order. I knew I was excited, but I wouldn't have articulated as, I'm really fascinated with Druidry and I want to explore that. But I wasn't thinking, I'm going to find my home there. I wasn't using that kind of language. And so many people speak of it like that, and it's just it's just wonderful. And their comments here, Blake says, I imagine having had such a variety of jobs creates a sort of unique and valuable perspective, offering an understanding and appreciating of many types of people and fields of work. And I think that's I would agree with him that having that broad sweep of job experiences, I think really, really equips anybody for dealing with the diversity and the variety in life.
Yes, I agree. I think it's just not just the jobs. In some ways, I've lived quite a wild life. I've taken a lot of risks. Mm-hmm. I've done some really stupid things. I spent the night in the police station. I spent my 18th birthday in Highgate Police Station. I'd stolen a car with a couple of people. I don't regret any of it. It's all grist to the mill. I wouldn't do it now, but it all helps. It all fits into place. You understand why somebody does something. I've worked abroad. I did a vendage, grape picking in France. I've toured Italy with a theatre company. I feel very lucky. I've had quite a rich experience of doing different things and meeting very, very different people, and I'm lucky because I feel like I have a lot of acceptance of myself.
Wonderful.
And that really helps.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because there's so many questions now I want to ask you. So I have to. Blake says, I understand what you're saying, Alby. You wouldn't recommit the crime, but you wouldn't trade the lesson learned either. And one of the questions I ask my guests, never this early into the conversation, but I'm going to ask it now because you said you did some crazy things. What's the most reckless thing you've done?
The most reckless thing I've done.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
One that you're happy to disclose.
There's a few things come to mind. I mean, at 16, I had a motorbike, and I mean, this is just craziness. I had a very long school scarf, and I had a long scarf. It came from the girls' grammar school, and I sort of wore it as a badge of honor. You know, people think I'm going out with somebody from Hatfield Girls' Grammar, and where in reality is, absolutely hopeless with girls at that age. So, but this blue and yellow scarf, and it was really, really long. It was the length of a Doctor Who scarf. So I'm driving along on my motorbike, and suddenly my head was yanked back really, really tight, and suddenly it was released. I thought that's really weird. And a bit later, I stopped my bike, and the scarf would torn into two pieces. Half of it was wrapped around the chain of my motorbike, and half of it was around my neck. And I was so lucky because the scarf was long enough to have taken up the tension. I mean, it ripped, it broke. It was. I felt, I've always felt I've got a guardian angel. That's not really a reckless thing to do. I mean, I remember with some friends, we climbed up this cliff, and I think it was Allen Bay in the Isle of Wight. We were about 18. We were a bit stoned, and we climbed up, and there was a small group of onlookers watching us because how we were going. It started off like that, and then it ended up nearly vertical. So I mean, you couldn't get any further up. So it involved of us slipping back, turning around and going back, and sliding down on our bums for the last 12 feet or so. And there's people just looked at us with incredulity because it was such a stupid place to try and climb, but we hadn't really thought it through.
I mean, it's Jackie says, so refreshing to hear an honest journey. And others are saying Isadora Duncan wasn't so lucky with her scarf. And
Isadora Duncan, yeah.
Yeah, a terrifying near miss. So it's what lessons? I mean, what if those, maybe reckless, careless, not thought through experiences where there've been near misses, but you've actually survived? What was it they taught you?
I mean, the first reckless experience was with my father, and he bought this do-it-yourself assembler garage kit. It had huge pieces of prefabricated concrete. These pillars were about 7 foot high, and they were about, I don't know what they were, they're about 6 inches by 9 inches. There was me and my brother, and I had to hold one of these concrete pillars while Dad sort of went around putting nuts and bolts around them. And I couldn't hold mine. I think I was probably about 7 or 8. And the thing just dropped and smashed on the ground. And I thought at the time, that this thing weighs about 10 times more than I do. It's really heavy and it's really tall. How was I supposed to hold that? It was daft. And my dad was he was church treasurer, an accountant, straight as a die. But it was, he could have killed me with that stupid concrete pillar. So what's your questions is what's it taught me? There probably is, as I say, I think there is a higher power, and I just generally, I do have a sense of life, my life being incredibly precious, and I do feel, and I often feel I am protected. I'm incredibly lucky, and yeah, oh my God, yeah, years and years ago, and I shouldn't include this really, but I was driving. I was so far over the limit, I could see two sets of broken lines, and it was really hard. I was seeing double as I drove, and I had to really choose which set of white lines was the real ones, and that was probably the last time I did that. It was absolutely insane. That was the most reckless thing, because I was literally seeing double, and yeah, that taught me a lot.
People saying you're definitely protected. The stars smiled upon you. Really interesting. Philosophical says, good grief. My dad was like that too. Not a pragmatic cell in his brain, but he'd have fits of determination to take on projects way too big and dangerous for him. Can relate. And Blake says, I don't want to say all accountants are bland. That'd be unfair. But there is great evidence there, knowing a few myself. Oh dear, someone's going to send a complaint for that one. And Pat Booker says, I get that sense of protection sometimes when I'm about to do something genuinely stupid or risky. I sometimes get the certainty it will be all right. And it's never been proven wrong so far. And I think that's great. And then Ferdiad says, I think, Ferdiad, I think there's a lot of us who must have had some kind of otherworldly protection to survive DIY projects.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah.
I remember I was just telling the story. I lived in Kenya. I was working as a nurse in the early 80s. And we lived 3 hours drive on a really bad dirt road. The roads were corrugated because the desert was so hot. And we would go and collect fuel. And I did not know how dangerous petrol was.
Mm.
We would have a Land Rover with a drum of petrol in the back, full of people, because there was no buses. So anyone who, if you were driving, you would pick people up, squashed around this petrol tank. And myself and my friend are in the front. We're not driving, we're the passengers. And we're on the way home, and piled high with, I'd have, crates of eggs and things like that. And then I heard this rumbling and felt this rumbling and heard this sound. And I looked out. There was a wheel that had just come off the Land Rover, flying off into the bush.
Oh
and
my!
The Land Rover just went. We all got out. Nobody injured. I had no idea how dangerous. And I don't know how many trips I made with petrol in the back. And it's like, you've no other choice. This is what you do. I'm glad I didn't know, but I wouldn't do it now.
It's incredible. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Where I lived, my parents, do you remember the paraffin heaters?
Yes.
In houses, we'd have this big paraffin heater, and the trouble with our one was that it used to catch fire somehow, the whole thing. And when it did that, you had to pick up the whole paraffin heater by its handle. So it wasn't just the flame inside. The flame suddenly whooshed out to something crazy. You had to open the French windows and take the paraffin heater outside. And the thing is flaming really dangerously. I can't explain that to you. Again, that was my dad's thing. And maybe things have got safer now. But it's we are incredibly lucky.
I do think we're more safety conscious,
Yeah.
There were so many children who got scalds and things in kitchens, and then now it's like it's been drummed in, have the handle of the saucepan that way, and don't leave a pot of oil unattended, and those kind of things, that we are much more safety conscious than in the past.
That's absolutely true, and I think that came from the United States, isn't it? Because people were starting to sue each other. I mean, I'm not trying to be cynical there, but I think that the health and safety culture has come, yeah, and it's a really, really good thing.
Well, sometimes it goes too far, but yes, but being safety conscious.
It goes too far because because I do quite a lot of DIY, and there's little pots that you cannot open now because they're childproof. So so there's certain resins and things. I can't remember the name. Shellac to put over knots when you're painting.
That's right.
The knots in pine. The shellac seals itself. It's in a childproof little pot, and you can't get that top open at all because it's and it's like.
I know that. Fergie says, does anyone remember when we had to wire up our own plugs when we bought a new toaster?
Oh God, yes. Everything, every electrical application you had to put the plug on and learn the current wiring diagrams. I'd forgotten that. Yeah. Oh, I'm beginning to feel old now.
Or useful and competent.
I do solve problems. I'm quite good at repairing things. I'm quite proud of that. So in that way, I recycle things.
Anyway, it's like funny, we're talking about safety. Philosophical Phoenix says, it's such an epiphany to realize how closely we walk with potential death every moment, every day. A relief in a way, once you know you're never in control. And Philippa says, my mum used to set fire to the kitchen often with the chip pan. I think people didn't take so much care. Yeah, I mean, I know. It's funny, we played unsupervised for hours, told don't go near the river. What did we do? Went near the river. And but now, I mean, my kids are in the country and they were exposed to lots of risk, but I didn't let them off in the fields on their own, just because it's all been in my, and I hate that about me, put in my head about dangers. You know, they couldn't walk on the road because it actually is dangerous with the traffic. But they were exposed to lots of risks and lots of, you know, they weren't overprotected, but I didn't let them off up the fields or to the woods on their own. And I'm so sorry I couldn't. Just, it was in my head. Those with all, you know, social, actually it's not social media, but television news, social media wasn't flying around when my kids were young. So it's really, really interesting that how we need to allow our children to get used to risk. Geraldine says, I survived an adventurous life and near-death experiences. I've regrets I learned and would not say yes to those things now. I earned some wisdom to write about. A renegade blazing around. Well, of course, I mean, I think it's wonderful to be able to say you've learned. And yes, sometimes there's no need to repeat them. Once is enough for the learning. And Jackie says, when we look back, we really do question how we survived some situations, the chances we took without hesitation. The 70s and 80s were a time of so much expression and freedom. Yes. And Sean says, yeah, we used to have a fairy story about a tree by the river to keep us away from the river as kids. Still found a way to sneak out, though. Well, that's exactly it. Sean, I hope your own children aren't doing that now. But anyway.
I don't know.
Yes, and Jules. Huh? You don't want to know?
I'm so sorry for children now, particularly in cities and particularly in high-rise flats. When COVID comes around, it's so unnatural. It's such a shame kids can't play in the street anymore. I'm lucky. I live in a village. There's a little play park, and it's right next to some woods in my village. But that's about all you've got. You've got some parks and you've got some play areas. But it's immensely sad. I used to walk to school, primary school, and then cycle to my secondary school. And something's lost in all the protection. I mean, I'm sure you do need it, but somewhere there's got to be some sense and some exposure to the natural world. And I think forest school and everything like that is really, really a brilliant thing.
I think so. I was at a psychology conference recently and we're talking about, the presenter says, who here played unsupervised as children? And the majority of people put their hands up. Who here allows their child out unsupervised? And I think unsupervised play is very important. Like Sean says, it's a great skill to learn as a kid, though, just to escape to nature. Hard as a parent, though. So it's those kind of things. And now our heads are so full of all the potential dangers out there. It would have been in the past the boogeyman or whatever, and now it's all of those whatever, because we hear so much of it on the news. And Timey says, despite the dangerous aspects, modern life has taken away from children's freedom. I agree with you. And I think we need to let children negotiate fear and risk to be able to solve problems. But if they've been rescued all the time, I mean, in playgrounds, if it's children not allowed to climb trees in case, and again, it's around litigation, if they fall and then they sue the council for whatever it is, where I fell off trees, I was exploring fields, getting cut in barbed wire and coming home, and my mother saying, "Will you be more careful the next time?" There was no question of going up to the farmer and saying, "How dare you put barbed wire where my child cut herself?" It's like, no, go and learn this. Just be careful the next time. Learn from that. Falling off walls, splitting my head, those kind of things. It's just be careful,
I think the age of 4 is the most fearless age for children, and maybe it's a little mad, but I know most 4-year-olds would climb right up a step ladder right up to the top. When I'll see my my youngest grandchild Bonnie climbing right up play frames in the local park, and she has a fearlessness about her, and she's always had that, which comes from, I don't know, just feeling that the sense that things are going to be all right for her must outweigh the idea that something could go wrong, that she could fall. And I think that's brilliant.
I remember which is my daughter is 22 now, at 5, climbing a tree really high up and standing like this and says, "It's perfectly safe." Now, she had a brother who had died around that time. He was a risk taker. He enjoyed, he was in St. Andrews, and he went to he was a member of the high risk sports club. And she had that crawling and climbing perfectly safe. And she climbed trees and fell and cut herself. And I think that belief, we need to have a belief that things are going to work out. Otherwise, obviously, caution is good too, but we need to have that. I suppose we get up and we get into our cars, or we walk along the road in the belief that we're safe. And we need to. I can't remember who said it, but we're so close to danger and we don't see it. And maybe we are all the time, and we just bypass it. But we also need to be able to do that. And Jules says, "I let my son wander, but then we lived in a tiny town with little risk. He tells me how he's glad he grew up that way, in wide open spaces where his imagination could take wing." And that's exactly it, Jules, because in an open field or in a woods or whatever it is, the whole world opens up, in the world of imagination.
Absolutely, yeah. The world of the imagination is I don't know. I think that sort of dovetails neatly into Druidry, doesn't it? Well, what we can imagine, what we allow ourselves to exist, and not having a set idea, not having set limitations about ourselves or about the world, about the planet, but just being open to all sorts of possibilities.
Absolutely. Philosophical says we definitely learn fear from the fears of adults than from within ourselves as kids, for good and ill, maybe. And Karen says it's about the way you respond, like say, stay safe rather than don't fall. And it's about that. Uh, Great times, exploration and resilience building, freedom to develop. And Druidry, you're right, is about that. It's about entering the forest. It's about engaging with the elements. It's about engaging with the dark, with the light, and opening yourself up to that. And it's also about confronting fears within that and then discovering the wonder within.
Totally, yeah, yeah. And you're thinking of do I have a reflection on that?
Do you have a reflection on that?
I'm quite with old Carl Jung about the facing our fears is actually that road, that dark road is ultimately the best one, is the strongest one to travel on. And it takes time and effort and yeah, risk taking again, isn't it? It's all about it. There's a whole theme here, isn't it? All through what we've spoken about trusting something else, not what we can see necessarily with our eyes, but trusting into something, some larger force that is with us. We can't see it, but we feel it, or that sense that we're part of a larger whole. And actually, for me, the whole that everything ultimately is made of love, and that's where we're going. That's where we've really come from, and actually. And if I don't see that, I'm seeing a rather distorted view. I'm seeing a very heady view of of what happens in a day, because that's what I want to perceive.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, risk. It helps us develop resilience, confidence in ourselves, and to move forward and discover make the unknown known, and still dealing with the unknown, because the mystery is really, really important. We can't solve every mystery. And if we've no mystery, there's no magic, but about working with that to do that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you did loads of hair-raising things before you joined the order. So, how would you say, what impact has Druidry had on your life in terms of how you live it? How does it,
Yeah.
how does it support you?
Nice question. Yeah. You must have done this sort of thing before, Eimear.
Maybe.
It's made me, I think, yeah, depending on who you talk to, some people might say I'm a grumpy old git sometimes, but which is true, but that's my age. But actually, I do feel, oh God, I feel very positive. I feel quite happy a fair proportion of the time. How's it affected me? So one thing I do, I work once a month with a group of adults with learning difficulties, and we start in a circle. There's about 14 people, including about 3 or 4 carers, support staff, and we start with 3 breaths.
Lovely.
And it's so quiet, you could hear a pin drop, and it starts off in a we start in that very, I like to think, very calm and deep way, and it feels real to me. I don't know what other people. Nobody's complained. Nobody makes a noise. Ask people to put their feet on the floor, and it's amazing. It's so that's a little thing that trickles out. Bo works in the local parish council, and we're in this what I forgot the name of the group, sustainability group, and she organised a tree walk about months ago. So we had just 14 people from our village came on that, but we had the druidic names of each of the trees, a little history of the trees, and and I'd written a poem about a particular oak that was on this little local trip, which was really to show people in the village, what a wonderful heath we have, and what wonderful trees, and we should be proud of what's around us. So yeah, that felt good. But really, I suppose in the most profound application is I feel quite lucky because I'm able to use my hands fairly well creatively. So sometimes I do pottery. I've done pottery. I've done more recently watercolor painting. I've done carving in wood. Much more since Druidry. It's that sort of spark of Arwen has translated into doing things. I painted a series of pendants. Got one around my neck. Oops, I can't. It's hard to.
You're going the wrong way. Up. Yeah. Oh, very nice. There's the bear. Beautiful.
That's a polar bear.
You need to bring it over the opposite way to where you.
This is really hard.
Yeah, you're getting.
This is on a phone.
You're getting warmer. There you are. Oh, it's the penguin. Lovely. Bring it. Yeah, lovely. Very nice.
Turn him around. Go the opposite way to I think he is.
Is that on wood?
I went through a phase of doing a lot of these, and
oh, beautiful.
It's a wolf.
And I have one slide of yours. I'm just going to see if I can share that. I think it's this one. Am I right? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So you've got the bear, you have the cow, the swan, and then you have the moon through the trees, and then you have, is that a fire?
I think it's the sun
It's the
behind
sun.
some trees. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then that's a cheetah. Yeah.
It's too small an image for me because I'm only on the phone, but it's either a cheetah or a white Siberian tiger.
Ah, okay.
I'm not absolutely sure because it looks really tiny.
So you're is that it's acrylic on wood? Is that what you're doing?
That's right. And then I sent you a slide of a painting I did.
Okay, I'm going to try that one. I'm going to stop sharing that one, and we're going to do another one. So I've got 2 of your paintings. So hold on a second. Let me see. I don't know which one it is. Anyway, I'll let me see. No, it's the pendants. Is this one? That, can you see that one?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a Christmas card I did.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just a black and white. But I mean, that was fun doing stuff like that. I do really enjoy trees, and I like the form of trees when the leaves have dropped, and there's something amazing. I always think, oh, it's going to be sad. You know, the leaves have only lasted a few months. It only seemed like May since there was this bright new green on the beech trees, and then it's November and all the leaves are gone. But actually, there's something incredible about the sort of naked form of a tree that is just as beautiful.
And then there's one last one. I think is a beautiful one too. Is it that one? Yeah, that's the one. I think this is a beautiful one. Tell us about that one. They're druids. I take it in a moonlit forest.
That's actually me in a green cloak.
Go away. Ah.
So this is a place called Wild Ways, and this is a Imbolc, and we'd set up 2 shrines to Bridget, and we'd set up this shrine and actually converted this room to Bridget's healing well, and it was just done really, really beautifully. It wasn't a real well, but actually it kind of was the love that had gone into making this apparent well, and we took turns being the keeper, the person that looked after the well. That was one place, and the other place was in this place called a roundhouse, which is a proper, like an old-fashioned roundhouse made of wattle and daub and thatch, and that was Bridget's fire temple, and you could be a fire minder. And I spent the entire evening walking between these 2 different shrines, and there was a few other people, and I happened to look up as I walked through this wood, and I saw this circle of clouds, and these stars appear in the middle, kind of as I depicted it. And then I thought I must paint this because it's so beautiful. And there was we all carried candles, and in fact there was candles in jars near to light our way on the path between the trees, and they were very tall trees. And I just thought I must try and paint this, and I bought some watercolors, and that painting actually took me about a month to do, but it was
beautiful, magical. And people saying that's a beautiful ritual. I'm inspired by it. Wow, what an amazing connection. Beautiful, Bridget's flame, breathtaking and magical. Philosophical says, prominent winter theme in your work. Hard to find beautiful winter art like yours. Yes, that's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Our viewers are really, we have very appreciative viewers, which I really like too. our viewers here.
We have very what viewers?
Appreciative viewers.
Oh, appreciative. Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And Blake says, I had a colleague in a local shamanic circle I'm part of. She once poetically said that the bare branches of trees in winter look like beautiful lace against the sky. And that has stuck with me. And of course, that comes across in that other painting. Yeah, beautiful pendants. Jules loves the grizzly bear. Yeah. Just wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. The moon looks like a well in the sky, doesn't it? It does actually.
A well in the sky.
It does. Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah. Never thought of that. That's a lovely comment.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated when people give you, their take on something, and then it gives you another perspective, even if you hadn't thought of it. But it just allows you to take another look to see if you can see what they see. So the well in the sky is beautiful. Really, really lovely.
I indulge myself. I'm a bit of a show off now, so I'm going to show you. This is. Whoa.
That's a goddess holding a moon, a crescent moon. Yes.
Yes, it's actually a spoon. It's carved out of
Oh my goodness, it's a spoon. Wow. Oh,
This
that is beautiful.
this happened during the first lockdown. I couldn't see any clients, so I decided I would try carving. That wasn't the first thing I did. The first one I did was this one. It's I call it a whale spoon.
Oh, lovely. I love the tail. Brilliant.
And then I did a whole series of
And I loved the quirky handles. Brilliant. So do you have your knife, the hooked knife or do you burn it? Do you burn the wood?
Oh yeah, the hook knife. I know what you. Yes, I do that. I use all sorts of different things, anything and everything that comes to hand. But yeah, the hook knife, yeah, very sharp one. Yes, I have used those. Yeah.
Wow. Or do you burn a bowl? Do you burn to make the spoon first and then carve?
No,
You
no, I
start.
don't. I use technology. I've got a what do you call it? I've got a bandsaw, so I can cut out the rough shape. But then I've got other things that are much more. I don't know. What's that? This is a dark spoon.
Wow. You are so quirky. I love it. Brilliant. Oh, I'm having spoon envy.
I was so happy. I was totally contained, just spending hours on these things, and that was Druidry. It was sort of like wood, finding the things in finding the essence of what's in the material. This is a bit of pottery. It's a kind of green man.
Beautiful.
It's quite big for me. A lot of my stuff is very small.
And is that recent?
That's not. I can't remember when I did that, but it probably is post Druid.
Okay.
Here's a horse.
And made a ceramic horse, but you've got something hairy on it. I mean, it's got.
This is not a ceramic horse.
It's
This is just a felted horse. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh
Very
wow.
thing to do. Most men do a lot of felting. Haven't you noticed?
Oh, absolutely. Sure, they're everywhere. Tripping over them where I live. So that needle felted, or did you with the soap and water felting to make it very, very firm?
No, it's dry felted. I don't really know what I'm doing. I tend to sort of think I would like to try that, and then like a lot of things I try, I set my sights very high, and then it takes ages to do it. Here's something else. This is my stab at embroidery, but I've never done it before. So
wow. Of course, you started the hardest thing you could possibly do, scenes, right? Little flowers.
This is Bone Hill, where Bo and I walk up, and and what I've got to do is it's covered in these are sort of ferns.
I see them, beautiful. Wow.
But I mean that's taken ages. The sky came really quickly, but it's a typical thing. It's sort of like do something that's really difficult, and then leave it and do bits of it, and then it becomes it just becomes a very long-term project. So there's something that's driving me that I want to do something that I think is going to be really, really good, but it does take a lot of time, and then I'm really pleased at it at the end of it. But yeah,
So I want to get back to your horse. Did you needle felt it? Did you needle felted it? It is just. Someone wants to know: did you use pony hair, or would that be too hard to felt? I think it would probably be too coarse. So, what wool did you use? Merino, or what did you use?
What did I use? It's wool. It's sheep wool.
Sheep wool. Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
yeah. I think some of this, I mean, it was just very raw. As far as I know, but it's just what Bo has actually quite often in the conservatory. But yeah, I've cheated. The eyes aren't proper. The eyes
Beads, are they?
actually that they are. I've really cheated it.
Beads.
They aren't. I had this idea. They are pins, glass-headed pins,
Brilliant.
with black glass-headed pins.
Clever. I mean, the comments here, I'm so impressed with your variety of talents. You created the pattern too. That's talent. That's how you learn. Start with something very difficult.
It's not how you learn. It's stupid because you could backfire and you might put you off doing it. But it's I don't know. I'm a Virgo, which is sort of like a very complicated and a strange star sign, I think.
I'm almost one.
There's something about perfectionism wrapped up in it all.
I understand it. I'm a Leo, but I'm the end of August, or I'm the 20th. So I'm almost a Virgo, and I have Virgo streaks in me. I understand that.
Yes.
Now, there's Blake, I don't know what star sign you are. He says, we fiber arts people are so demanding. We're over here wanting to know the breed of sheep. So what breed of sheep did you use to make your pony?
Oh my goodness me. Bo would know the answer to that, but I'm going to say something like a black-faced sheep, but I don't know.
He's a Capricorn.
Because Bo gets she actually used to get these sheep fleeces, and we got one from a neighbour who owned a small holding, which was incredible. You know, so it was really next door. The fleece came from next door, and that feels good to be using stuff that's really, really local to you. That's what it should all be about, I think.
And would you then wash it and card it before you, or you just take it from?
Bo, it was too tedious, too hard to wash it. I think she carded it and then kind of scratched away at any sort of impurities that came out, as far as I remember. And then she spun it on a proper wheel.
Ooh,
that was good. She's got all the stuff.
Wow, just brilliant, beautiful. Now, did you tell me you're going to tell a story?
I did say that, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
But just before you start, Sean Clancy said, 0 carbon footprint to the art. Love that. Of the place, in the place. Well done, Sean. So if you have a story, it would be lovely to hear it.
Okay, I'll have a stab at a story. And it's a story I particularly like. So we can remember the ancient god Kronos, who had a nasty habit of eating all his offspring, bar one. And Rhea was trying to protect. And this, I've got that wrong. The final child that Kronos hadn't eaten, and Kronos was looking for this child, and he met a sea nymph called Philyra, and he was absolutely taken by this nymph, and he just lusted after her, and she was not interested, and she changed her form into that of a mare to get away from Kronos, and Kronos just changed his form into a stallion and mounted her greedily and hungrily, and they mated, and he disappeared. The nymph had an awful birth. She had a terrible, terrible time. She gave birth to a being that was half man and half horse, a centaur. She was so disgusted with the sight of what had come out of her womb, she decided to leave it on top of a mountain to die. And she was disgusted with herself, and she changed her form into that of a tree, I believe. So there was Chiron, half human, the top half, human form, the upper torso, the lower body, animal, horse-like. And Apollo sees him and looks after him. Apollo and Artemis, and Apollo teaches him the love of music and philosophy and intuition. And Artemis teaches him to hunt and warfare, I think, something like that. And Chiron grows up, and he's very, very different from all the other centaurs, who are quite earthy and quite they're very wise beings, but they tend to be rather lusty. They're not known for their subtlety, but they're suddenly, there's Chiron, and he's from a completely different bloodline, and he's wiser, and he's really, really charming, and he's versed in all the arts, and he's got such a wonderful patron, Apollo, and suddenly all the kings and everybody who's anybody is sending their sons to be looked after and raised and educated by Chiron. And we have Peleus, we have Jason, we have Perseus, we have, oh my goodness, Hercules. Just a few, and they are all educated. They are all taught the arts by Chiron, and there's a link with Asclepius, who later becomes the founder of medicine, and all's going swimmingly well. And Chiron is very intellectual. He's very happy with his life. And then Hercules happens to come across this other centaur called Pholus. And Pholus has opened this special wine. It's a gift from Dionysius. And the scent of this wine is driving all the other centaurs wild. And they rush towards this cave with desire. They just want to have this wine. And soon Hercules is defending the cave, and he's got his bow and arrow, and it's dipped in the poisoned blood of, it's gone, but it's the blood of the Hydra.
Oh, yeah.
And he's shooting at the centaurs, and suddenly Chiron receives this arrow in his knee, and this arrow should kill him instantly, but he's an immortal because his father was a god. And Chiron is in great pain, and Hercules, of course, is terribly sorry because this is his old tutor, and he's feeling really bad. And Chiron's saying to Hercules, "Oh, well, you didn't do it on purpose." He's trying to calm Hercules down, but Chiron is really, really in a lot of pain, and there's something that's happened about this wound, and it brings him out of his intellectual mind and right into his animal body. He cannot avoid his animal body, and he goes out onto the land, and he tries out through trial and error what herbs would work to staunch this poison, and he tries a little bit of this and a bit of that, and that sort of helps, and that herb helps, and the ointments, and he starts getting a small following of people that really like what he's doing, because all this time that Chiron is having to develop compassion for himself and for his wound. He's having to come to terms with who he is. But people are coming to be healed, even though Chiron cannot heal himself. His wounds just stay there. And he lives with the pain and the openness of the scar tissue that is his wound. But he earns this reputation as this brilliant and gifted healer. But after a time, he decides he doesn't really want to live anymore. And he knows Prometheus has been suffering in Hades. And of course, Prometheus discovered fire, and the gods were angry. So every day his liver is pecked by an eagle. And Chiron volunteers to take Prometheus's place. And Prometheus is released and pardoned by Zeus. And Zeus allows Chiron to die. And Chiron then is cast out into the sky and becomes the constellation of Sagittarius. Of course, so you've got this total reminder of who he is. And that's the story.
Beautiful. Wow. That's lovely. Geraldine says Rhea switched her infants with a wrapped stone, and he would put the stone infant thinking it was his flesh and blood. I take it that was Kronos thinking that. That was a beautiful story. And you highlight his compassion and diplomacy, his brilliance before war, Chiron, and what a generous act to wish to free Prometheus, from his punishment, having given fire to humans. It's beautiful. And he doesn't go to Hades; he goes up into the sky, where he's there, with his arrow. It's beautiful. Lisa says, "Thank you, Alby. A lovely telling."
Thank you very much.
Very much enjoyed your storytelling. I enjoyed it too. I was able to, I'm not a great Greek myth person, and I really enjoy that. And Philosophical says, that story has so many deep truths. Also, my husband is a Sagittarius, and now I can tell him I know why he's such a pain. Good. It's amazing what you can learn on these chats, Philosophical. Jackie says, great story. Thanks for sharing. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Alby. That was lovely.
I think it's relevant to any therapist, really, because it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that our own scar tissue has to be open, that it's by knowing our own attitude to pain and our awareness of pain that creates a place where we can we can sit with other people.
Absolutely. And if I know somehow we're kind of life programs us, particularly the modern world, to expect to be pain-free and do what we can to avoid pain. And it's like when we think of the three cauldrons, the cauldron of motion can only be turned by experiencing grief as well as joy. And that how much we learn, like you say, those crazy experiences you had when you were younger, and that we learn through pain. And what we really need at the moment is compassion. And it's not until we acknowledge our own pain can we feel compassion for the other And I was talking to a friend of my daughter the other day, a very wise young man. He's 22. And we were sitting across the table from each other, and he was talking about his education. And this observation he made that, in school, his name is Sean, he's a lovely young man, you spend years learning, and at the end of the learning, then you do the test.
Mm.
And he says, you leave school, and then there's life. You get the test, and then you do the learning. It's the opposite way around. And it's like we only learn through mistakes, tests, feeling pain, and also joy. Because joy is a challenge. It's not all about, grim trauma and torture, but how important that is. And again, compassion. And we need lots and lots and lots of compassion for ourselves, which that was one of Karen's lessons, but also for the other. And I think if we can have compassion for ourselves, everything starts here.
Can I make a compassionate request? And this is unusual, but I'm feeling a desperate need to go to have a quick wee.
You go and have a quick wee, and I will read a poem of Howard's. So I have his book here. So this is, I've done this before, but this is one of my favorite poems of Howard. We'll stick with Greece. So it's Aristotle, Howardian Ethics of the Mean after Nicomachus, with thanks to Cormac MacArt. Choose to do that which brings you towards the virtue of your being. Do not seek what you cannot know. Do not dwell in what cannot change. If your nature be as rock, move down, go deep. If your nature be as fire, move up, flame with sparks. If your nature be as water, move around, meander. If your nature be as air, expand, fill every corner unseen. Stir your cauldron full with pleasure, sorrow, pain, and joy. Learn the difficult craft of choice. Make your way of being a work of art. Not too much, nor too little of any one tint. A finished work of art needs nothing taken away, nothing added. Choose when to be full with pleasure. Choose when to be sure of sorrow. Choose when to grow through pain. Choose when to wallow in joy. Search for the excellence of your being. So easy to have feelings, given out too much or too little. So difficult to find the center of a circle. So difficult to change a habit to virtue, to straighten a bent willow wand, curve it beyond the mean. Anyone can be angry. This is easy. So difficult with the right person, to the right extent, at the right time, with the right motive, in the right way. This is not easy. Choose to do what brings you towards the virtue of your being. Do not seek what you cannot know. Do not dwell on what cannot change. Seek not to be too little nor too much. Climb the steep path. Stoop to the wind. Navigate the mists for the virtue of your being. So I muted you, Alby. Fine again, just because there was just a little bit of interference. So Jules says, I was just wishing for that poem. Thank you, Jules. That was great. Philosophical says, empathy requires an openness to pain, your own and that of others. Beautiful. And Lisa said, I just had an interaction where I had to calm anxiety and share compassion with a friend who had an issue. It's always the best choice. Lovely. Yes, Philosophical Lara, if you contact me, eimear@druidry.org, they're for sale. I can, if you give me just eimear@druidry.org, if you email me there, I can, we can talk about that. Yeah. So Howard wrote that poem. He was just not long before he died, and he was in hospital going in for a procedure. So he brought in a book of Aristotelian philosophy written by his son Nicomachus. It's the kind of thing you do when you're waiting for a procedure in the hospital.
Wow.
About virtue ethics, and that's what he came up with. So and also it's very much influenced by Cormac MacArt, that the ethics of the ethics of the mean, etc. So anyway, it's a poem I'm fond of it. So anyway, thank you. And Nimi says, such wise words needed now for us all. What a gift. Absolutely. And that was 9 years ago he wrote that, so before he passed. So yeah. So compassion for yourself, wonderful. So what would you say has been the thing you're most proud of, your greatest achievement?
Blimey. That's me. I absolutely, totally enjoyed working in a therapeutic community and seeing people change, seeing people become empowered. And I had to run therapeutic groups, and it was weird because I was a drama therapist, and can you imagine a regime where therapy is mandatory? You have to attend therapy. You have to attend drama therapy. Can you imagine what? I mean, it's crazy. So I had at
I
that
had
point.
to do that as part of my training. We all did. Yes, I understand.
Oh, yes, but
Yeah, no, I get you.
but in a community. So there was 12 women, and they all had to do drama therapy. So I had 3 or 4 people who said, I don't want to do this. I'm going to sit out in a chair and I'm going to watch other people. Oh, this might have a bit of an inhibiting effect on other people. But after 3 or 4 weeks, every single person took part, and they actually enjoyed it. They were surprised. And I was really pleased about that. And I saw people change. So I felt really a confluence of being at the right place of my training, and kind of where I was at was absolutely matching the needs of the people I was working with. And that was one. I mean, that was the best job. What am my biggest achievement? I mean, having a daughter, being in a really good relationship. There's so many things I'm grateful for. I've really enjoyed the community of this Druid camp called White Horse Camps, which is unfortunately is sadly no more recently. But that has been it's not an achievement, I suppose, but it's just to have taken part in so many camps there and felt the flow of Arwen, and felt so inspired as a result of meeting such a strong, such an interesting group of supportive and loving individuals. That's been incredible. I don't know. I'm tons of things. I was in a show in London once, West Side Story. I had to sing and dance in that. I played a jet. It was such a lot of fun. I absolutely loved it. I had this song called Giopasa Krupke.
Yes, I know the song. Yeah.
You know it? I had to sing that in front, and it was the funny thing was 95% of the cast were deaf. And we did the whole show in sign language, which I didn't know anything about. And we were the only theatre company, I think, in Britain that year that were given the rights to be able to perform West Side Story. And so I had to sing Giopasa Krupke and sign it at the same speed as I was singing it, which was a kind of work of art. That it was really, really hard. I don't know.
I'm not that I am in awe of. That is something else. Wow. Tracy says, a lot of court-ordered clients out there. I love that challenge. A good therapist can help draw them out. You must be wonderful, Alby. That's the last bit I wanted you to. But I mean, you're a real Savildonach. You know what that means. So Lou Savildonach was Lou, the many skilled one. And I'm looking at your storytelling, your painting, your carving, your therapy. Obviously, to be in a West End show singing, the voice can't be too bad. And obviously, you were dancing as well with West Side Story, and then to sign and sing in sync. You know, to sing in key and sign in sync. I mean, talk about. I don't know how you did it. I'm in awe of you. So wow.
It wasn't easy. No, no.
Well, there's a challenge, doing something like that, and then by doing something, having it. When you said that the majority of the cast were deaf, and I imagine it opens up for audiences, who can't hear. Just incredible, and to have been able to get the funding and all of that to put that out there. Wow.
I'm also. I don't know if you've heard of Liv Talk. She's a very distinguished.
Oh, I think I have.
Yeah. And she's been over to the COP28 climate.
Yeah.
And taken these amazing films with her. So she did a series of short films, and they were all haiku that were sent in, and people either would write a haiku or send in a photograph, or sometimes both. And 8 pathways. So there were different pathways, like revisioning a world where nature was absolutely respected, where people lived or live more hand in hand with nature, where perhaps capitalism is no longer the thing, but we just we exist in a much less financially driven way. And so she went out and showed these films to these decision makers, to these representatives of country. I mean, it's an amazing role to have. But I felt quite glad that a little haiku I'd written was included in one of the films.
Do you have it there?
Well, yeah, but it isn't anything very much. I've got some other poems. So this is
okay. If any poetry to share, I know our viewers would love to hear some.
The 8th pathway, a rebuilt financial and economic system for health and prosperity. So that was about. So this is what I wrote in response to that. No longer judged by what I didn't earn was a great relief.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely.
But yeah, and I Liv wrote. She edited this book. What if we can't save the earth, but if the earth could save us? And that's really good. And she's just quite an amazing, and I find it incredibly inspiring. And she's sort of brought out the poetic side of me. So I've got something, and I've got a little poem in that book.
Oh, please, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I don't know if you would. It's a bit weird.
Well, you haven't been exactly mainstream since you've come on the air. So weird is good. We like weird.
Good. This is called Stop. Stop and let the busy ants out of your head. Let them tumble from your ears, dropping down like manic tea leaves. If you grow moss between your toes and your roots become deep enough, they will surely flee, forming disorderly lines, returning to settle under the leaves in the forest. Let your body be porous, a place for the wind to scream and bellow around your rib cage. Let rain penetrate your thatch of hair, soak and soothe each strand like a cat's tongue. Mice will deftly commandeer your pockets and your sacred places. Robins will alight on your head to offer sound advice. Be unclear as to where you start and end, what shape you need to be in the wild. And when you have knowingly flown into your in-breath, you might just feel grateful for all you have been offered.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Which brings me to, what is it you're grateful for?
Oh my goodness me. I thought about that this morning. Number one, I'm absolutely so grateful just to be alive, just to be able to breathe in, and feel reasonably healthy. It's incredible to be alive. You can't. They say even the angels would love a human form. To have this opportunity, to have this life, to work out whatever stuff we have to resolve in this lifetime. So that's number one. To be loved, I feel incredibly loved. But really to see the earth. I mean, I've got about 12 trees in my garden, which is very, very lucky. Got a huge white silver birch. I think it's an unusual one. It's a Himalayan one, and it's totally white. It's got none sort of black gnarly bits. It's a really, really white tree. To see nature, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to hear blackbirds singing, robins. I've got a leyland eye hedge. I have to climb up there with a chainsaw. That's all a bit weird. And every time I was up there before Christmas, there was this loud chirping. There was a robin just out of sight or really close by, and I'd no idea what it was doing there, but he seemed to be talking to me all the time I was up there, up this ladder in the tree, and I felt very much he was keeping me safe. So I'm very, very grateful to the wild, to all the wild animals and the owls and or the deer that sometimes come to our garden, but they can be a bit of a nuisance as well.
Yes.
Everything. Just an incredible, beautiful, abundant world.
That's wonderful.
People.
Brilliant. Well, people here are very grateful for your poetry and the phrases you've used, your intonation that made it mystical and magical. And Natasha says, the trees and the birds are telling me to look up these days. And yeah, just so, so, so beautiful. Before we end, what concern you have? What concerns you about the modern world?
Oh my goodness. As much as I feel quite happy, I feel a background rumbling of anger about the lies that we live with deceit, and it's corruption, really. I'm not happy with capitalism at all. There's enough resources. There's enough food to go around. There's enough money to go around. I fear we've been disempowered, and from somebody that 20 years ago wasn't remotely interested in politics, but would always vote. You feel the injustices. It seems to come out more. Were people this corrupt? I ever before? I don't know. Maybe they always have been, but it is that power, the unequal distribution of power, really saddens me wars, what's happening in Gaza, but it's happening, man's inhumanity. I just wish that we were one. If we didn't have boundaries, if we didn't have separate nations, I mean, look at, Britain. I mean, everything was all part. It was all part of Africa, wasn't it? I mean, years and years ago, we were probably one or two big land masses, and this fragmentation and this assumption of national identities has landed us in a lot of trouble, really. Whereas I think it's an accident that we're born where, and I'm incredibly lucky to live where I am. But that kind of idea that I'm British or I'm this, it doesn't. I have no pride in that. I'd like to be just a citizen of the world. I'd just like to be part of the brotherhood of the world. And actually, the damage we've done to animals and the ecology is huge. The amount of species we've annihilated in our footprint is pretty sickening. Yeah, I could go on. I'm very concerned by it. Yeah.
You have so many people who are in agreement with you. Absolutely. There's no one arguing against you here. You've you're not alone. And I mean, I think it's easy, to fall into despair and hopelessness and get a sense of powerlessness. So, and I think there's something as Druids we need to watch that we don't do that. So what is it that gives you hope about this?
Well, it was good. That actually we can make small scale changes. I mean, I live in a village, and I'm beginning to get more tuned in to the village and do things within the village that are probably helping to make what we're doing a little bit more sustainable, or draw attention to the riches that we have here. So it's the stuff that we can do on our doorstep, and finding out, if our neighbours are okay, and supporting people locally. I think it starts. I didn't used to think that. I know so many different groups of people distributed in different places, but I do think, it's got to start where you live. You've got to take action and kind of join up the dots in locally in your community. And we try and grow as many vegetables and fruit. We've got 6 different apple trees as we can each year. And I don't know. Yeah, I put some tomatoes into the local community fund. I wasn't supposed to, because you're not supposed to put anything perishable in, but they went. They were, just small steps. I think, and just being kind and being inclusive and being open to talking to people, I think.
Yeah, I think Elisa says I get hope from the fact that I'm not alone in my thoughts. And I think the talking about it, knowing that we're not alone, just somebody mentions, I can't get back up there, but sending out ripples, of compassion, kindness, support. Poppy says it's always comforting to hear people who are so human and caring. Goodness has to radiate outwards, e.g. acts of kindness. And I mean, we do that with our peace prayer,
And that beautiful thing you do at the winter gathering, the mistletoe ceremony.
Oh, I love that
I
ceremony.
so enjoy that, Eimear. It really really brings me. I tear up when I hear all those that declaration in 6 different
languages.
languages. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and that's, you think, wow, and we had, you know, it's what an international order we have, and those threads that go everywhere. And I think the more we share that, the better. We've come to the end of our time, and it is, I could talk to you for hours. And I really, really enjoy this. And selfishly, I get so much from these chats because, you know, I've said hello to you at gatherings, but I've never had a conversation with you other than hello, how are you? And something very, very short. And it's really lovely to hear your story and to be wowed by it, and to discover all these talents. And so my last 2 questions, and this is what I ask everybody: what's your favorite season of the year, and what's your favorite ceremony on the wheel of the year?
Not hard to answer. I really like May.
Yeah.
I think it's a very sexy month, actually. It's just tumescence, and the leaves are kind of wet. It's the blossom. It's sort of nature at its height of potency, and it's incredibly beautiful as well. I don't know about having a favorite ceremony, because I don't like anything that, you know, it's like, oh, I'd like to go on holiday at Bournemouth each year. You know, that's what we always do. I always look forward to Samhain. So I try, and because I get wowed by different ceremonies, and at White Horse Camps, with every time there's an Imbolc or Beltane, it's done completely differently, and it wows me. I do really like Imbolc, having said that, but because there's something about winters that are tough, and you never quite get used to them, and they deplete your energy, and you don't go out for so many walks, and you kind of know you should be doing it. It's raining and it's hard. And Imbolc is like that light that comes. You know, the first snowdrops have come out in our garden, and that's sort of like, oh, it's a sign. And the buds are forming on the twigs on the trees. So I do like that. It's sort of like something's coming. That something's dormant. You know. But yeah,
I suppose yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I love the season. I love the ceremony that I'm in. You know, whatever ceremony it is, I enjoy it. I never say, "Oh my God, I hate this one." I love them all. But it's just an interesting question to hear what people have to say. Jackie says, "This has been one of the most honest and inspiring lives I've been on in quite some time. With experience comes wisdom, and I feel I'll take many positives away from this." Well, that's about you, Alby.
thank you very, very much. That's very generous, and I've
Enjoyed listening.
enjoyed talking to you, Eimear.
Okay, and lovely fireside chat. Thank you for a wonderful afternoon filled with the enchantment of creativity and the wisdom that you've gifted us today. That's, you know, just wonderful. People are really enjoying your chat, our conversation today. So brilliant. So I will let you, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'll let you say goodbye, and then I'll send you to the green room, and then we can go over some of the comments, because we didn't get to look at all of them. So I'll let you say good night to everybody, or good afternoon, because there are people here actually morning, noon, and night, and maybe a recording as well.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to me. I haven't seen your comments. Wow, I've really enjoyed having this space, and you know, if Eimear ever invites you, just jump at the opportunity, because it's taken me some time to say yes, and I'm really glad I did, and thank you. It's been a blast.
I'm glad, because I remember I asked you and you were just so really. And I thought, why are you so shy? There is no need, because look at our conversation. So it's been wonderful. Anyway, I'll see you in a few minutes, and I'll just say goodbye to everybody here. So that was a wonderful chat, and I'm just looking from your comments again, and it's been great to be back, and I'm looking forward to many more chats as we head on into 2024. And this year is the 60th birthday of the Order of Bards, Ovites and Druids. So we've been going a long time, and we continue to grow and thrive. And it's the community that we have here, and thanks to you. So I really appreciate you being here every week. Sometimes I miss a week, but anyway, that's life. But it's great to have you contributing to these conversations as well. So until we meet again, be well, and yes, peace and love, Lisa, and to all of you, and serenity. So until we meet again, slán go fóill.